are on the site of the castle.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
That's what you do. You buy these clothes that cost money and make a difference in it. But we never do that.
Never complains, gets up, gets on it, with a smile on his face.
You just want you to sit in your chair and go, hip hip hooray, for the Western press and the Western narrative. You dare dictate the same old, every single day without this. If you haven't seen it before, please watch the first series, the first 2 episodes, the second series. Stallone. Good evening, everyone. It's me again. Yes, it's me again. I just want to thank, before we start, I want to thank Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle Show. And honestly, please don't struggle, Pete, whether it's outside, the exterior or the interior. Don't struggle. Get these people in. Let them do the job. Wonderful prices. And if you're an NHS worker, NHS, you get a special discount. If you're an elderly, yes, elderly, you get a special discount too. Don't struggle. Please don't struggle. Get these professionals in. They're fully time served, fully insured. They're in and out. And I suppose they'll even make you a cup of tea. Nice cup of tea as they're painting away or whatever they do. Okay, please get gapping. They're a wonderful lot. I've had them in myself, I really have. And I'm not just saying that because that's how I got the sponsorship. Because I phoned them up and I said, listen, I said, can you thank your workers for coming in? I didn't even know them. To be honest, I just seen the advertising, got them in. And he says, we'll become your sponsor. Thanks. They are the professional, they're brilliant. I wish I could show you, I wish I could, but I can't carry me monitor around or camera or to show you the way. Please get them in. That's Gap Painting Services. And I have 2 guests on tonight. Yes, I have my old doppel, the international artist, Anthony Brown. He'll be telling me off because I never did one last week. I never did an history show last week. And I've got the wonderful Kalila Smith. Yes, Kalila. She does all this paranormal stuff, being on the telly, right, doing this paranormal stuff. But she's also interested in UFOs. She's interested in that. And we'll be talking a lot to her about all this paranormal. And also, I'll tell her about my experience. I don't know whether I have told her before. I really don't. But if you haven't heard it, think about my experience myself. Think about it. What I'm going to relay to the lovely, wonderful Kalila. And I'll bring her on right now. And here she is. Lovely. She was supposed to come to Liverpool. And I was going to say to Jason, give her my address and she come and see me. Then all of a sudden she had to go into hospital for an operation. But anyway, here's the lovely Kalila.
Hi.
Hey,
Frank.
Kalila.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well.
Oh, that's
Survived
good.
this.
That's good.
I survived the snowstorm last week.
Yeah, it's
Great.
been horrendous, hasn't it, over there? See, America, they get so many. You get typhoons, hurricanes, wildfires, tsunamis, everything you
We
get.
only get
And
the
yes, it's
hurricanes.
such a sorry.
We only get the hurricanes down south.
Yeah, you only get the hurricanes, yeah, unfortunately. But you know, you look at America. If you take it from the air and you're looking down, such a beautiful place. You know, you've got everything there. You know, you've got 4 seasons in one. If you know what I mean, you can go skiing and say in Colorado, for example. I'm just saying that. And yet, you know, just jump on a plane after you're skiing and fly down to Tampa, you know, sunbathe. And that's the beauty of America, if you know what I mean. That's the way I look at America, you know. It's given us so much. But what do you think of your new president?
Well, I think he's going to make a lot of good changes. I really do. I think we have a lot to look forward to.
Oh, right, okay. Well, you
We
want to
haven't
listen to
nothing done for the last few years. Nothing's really gotten done. It's kind of messy. So
it's been,
we're hoping.
I think your last 4 years has been horrendous, to be honest. But you want to listen to my Friday show. It goes out at 8 o'clock, you know, same time as I do now. And it's very political. It's the current affairs show. And there's
Okay.
there's a lot about America that comes out of it. Not the ordinary Americans, not the likes of you, or, you know, because I have a few friends in America. And a few friends, you know, I have one that comes on my football show. And he lives in Tampa, fully enough. And he's a big Liverpool football fan, and he comes on. So, you know, I've got nothing at all against the ordinary Americans. It's just the politicians, unfortunately. Okay,
Well,
I'm going to bring on my great friend, Alpo. And there he is, international artist, by the way, this man. And there he is on the ground. Hi, Andy.
Hiya, Frank. Hiya, Kalila. Nice to see you again.
hi, Anthony. Good to see you as well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. In brilliant company. Thank you. So I'm happy. I'm happy.
He always says that, you know. He always says that I could have a vampire on here, and he'd say, I'm in good company tonight.
Yeah, well, you know.
But anyway, Kalila, can you tell me what happened? You know, you never came to Liverpool. You went into hospital. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Oh, right. Well, I was supposed to come in November, and I went. It was back 4th of July weekend. I went to visit a friend in New England, where they have the big 4th of July celebrations, and I was having hip problems. I was going to have hip surgery in December, and I went to take a step, and my hip locked backwards, and it was recommended that I put off my travels and push up my surgery. So I actually had hip replacement in November, and so I'm still recuperating now. I'm it's not coming. It's not. They made it sound like it was really simple, like I was going to just bounce back, and it's not happening as fast as I thought it was. I mean, I'm better. I'm much better, but I did take a fall, and I fell.
Well, that's the old top and bottom of it, isn't it? As long as you're better, as long as you're better, you know that's
I'm
the
pain
main.
free, so that's good.
There you
All
go.
the pain is
Yeah, remember you were of pain. So, can I just mention a few people here that just tuned in? Tony LFC. Now then, Frankie. Now then, Tony. Jonathan Carpenter. Sounds like a fella from Hollywood, doesn't it? Jonathan Carpenter. Oh, brilliant. Hello, Jonathan. Hope you're well. Lynn Ellis. Evening, Frank. Hope you're well. Yes, Lynn, thank you. and the black and white boy. Evening, Go.
Good evening.
And Tony says, evening, Anthony.
Evening, Tony.
And he says again, hello, Kalila.
Hello, Tony.
Isn't that lovely? And
Yeah.
Lynn Ellis. Evening, Kalila.
Hello, Lynn. Good evening.
And evening, Anthony, says Lynn. Right.
Evening.
So, well, what is it, Kalila? What have you been up to lately?
Well, mostly trying to recover from this hip surgery and now a bit of a broken arm. Going to physical therapy a lot. Just kind of trying to get back into being me again. Going to physical therapy. It's been December, so celebrating the holidays with the family and so forth. And running the business pretty much. And well, last week we were dealing with snow. I got snowed into my house for 3 or 4 days, so that was weird and interesting at the same time. But not a whole lot of anything. It's been kind of low key around here. But we are going into Mardi Gras week, the Mardi Gras season. So we're right now, this weekend, we're going to start having parades and so forth. So we're gearing up for a busy Mardi Gras season.
Well, that was a tragedy the other week, wasn't it, really? Just before Christmas, when someone just drove into a crowd of, they were celebrating.
Oh, the New Year's. That was horrible. We had a terrorist. It was a terrorist attack, is what it was.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's shocking. But it's happening. But then again, that's for my Friday show, actually. You know, this is what I talk about. You know, the likes of what goes on in the world. And who's to blame, actually, who's to blame. But anyway, so what have you got lines up, you know, in the paranormal? And I believe you're interested in UFOs.
Well, UFOs kind of fall into the line of everything else in there. And why shouldn't it, right? There's a lot of people out there who have had experiences. In fact, many years ago, in 2005, when we had Katrina, and we were down for a while in the tourist industry in New Orleans, and I traveled to Miami for a while, and actually thought about starting a tour company there, and it didn't happen. But I wrote a book about some of the odd things in Miami, and some of the things that they had that were plentiful were UFOs, and also alien abduction. And there was entire groups of people who had claimed to have these sorts of experiences. In fact, one of those people was someone very famous. I don't know if I'm sure you recall, famous actor Jackie Gleason.
Yes.
Yes, he lived in Miami. His later show that he had, his variety show, was in Miami Beach. And he told a very bizarre tale that involved the former President Nixon, who was a golf playing buddy of his. He claimed that late one night, a limousine came out, picked him up at his house, brought him to a naval base in Miami at the orders of President Nixon, and he was brought into this hangar area, and that he witnessed the bodies of 6 alien beings, little gray men.
Wow. Well, wasn't that ever publicized? Wasn't it ever
publicized? Oh, yes. Well, first off, I publicized it in my book, and it was, of course, in the National Enquirer at the time, but there's been a lot about it. Jackie Gleason didn't talk about it for a long time, but when he got divorced, his ex-wife did an interview and let it slip out, and after that, it kind of went viral, as viral as they could get back then. But he went to his grave saying that it really happened. Now, a lot of people have tried to debunk it, but he swore that
about cover-ups. They just try to cover up these things. Also, there's another very famous actor in America, still going today. I think he's a great actor as well. Very funny actor. Is Dan Aykroyd. And he actually said, I was listening to him in an interview, and he was actually followed by these men in black. He was actually followed, and he said it was very frightening. You know, they just appeared, then all of a sudden they disappeared somewhere, then appeared again. You know, like stuff. It's just ridiculous, you know, the way can I just get down to here? And Dennis Paparak, this is my friend who I mentioned, I've got friends, and he's from Tampa. And he says, hello, folks, just popped in to say hi. I have a friend in St. Augustine, Florida, founded in 1565, that used to run one of the ghost tours there. How about that? Yeah. Most probably you're acquainted with this, you know, with this particular person, you know, through your books and things like that. And is most probably.
Right, yeah, St. Augustine places to have it, yes.
It's a very, very small world, don't you think? It's a very small world. You know, when I mentioned that Dennis came on, I mentioned about his friend that ran ghost tours. We have ghost tours here, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm aware of that, yes. You probably have them all over the country.
Well, when you're fit again and, you know, you decide to come over to Liverpool, and I found, you know, I've got to go into hospital and things like that, and if I'm fit enough, I'll show you two of the most haunted places in Liverpool.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm going to be in the area the first and second week of March. But I'm going to be in Wales actually, but I don't know if I'm going to be walking around well enough to do any.
Well, I won't be able to be walking, to be honest, not the first week of March. Mine's a long process, unfortunately.
Oh, are you recovering from something as well?
Yeah. I'm recovering. Just about.
Yeah, it's
I go and give talks, and Anthony, and I love his wife. Don't tell him that. I love his wife, Lainey, and she helps me and Anthony. You know, they bring me to these talks, and you know, they drive me there, and Lainey helps me in, and then I just stand there for a couple of hours talk, and then it's back again. So that's me at the moment. I can't walk very far. I can't walk properly, you know. But anyway, you know, having said that, I've got an appointment with the doctors next week, and hopefully something to be sorted out in the year, because I've had a letter off them and that, you know. So let's hope that everything is all right.
I'm hoping to be back over the summer. I'm hoping to come back up there over the summer and do a little more in the. Yeah, so we'll see.
Come and visit me. And you know, if you come to, you know, you'll have my address and that. That's if I'm okay. You know,
I don't, but he said yes. Actually, I want to do some filming there because I want to get the podcast that I used to do back up and running, the one I did with Billy, and I want to do some of the locations that Billy wrote about. I want to kind of do something to honor his memory, and I have a friend of his that's going to help me who's from Liverpool, Pete James, and he wants to. Yeah, he's. Do you know him?
Yeah, he's been on my show, Billy.
Okay. No, Pete James, his friend.
Oh, his friends. I tell you about.
Yeah. He's going to help me, you know, try to, you know, get some things together, and you know, I want to put together something on video to kind of honor Billy's memory, and you know, of course, it'll all be shot in his stomping ground in Liverpool and everything. Plus, I want to go to the time slip to see the time slip. Are you still in
touch with Sally as a widow?
What's that?
No, with Billy's widow, Sally.
Dolly.
Dolly, I'm sorry. Yeah, Dolly.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, she's in Cornwall. She's still in Cornwall. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice. But anyway, so getting back to the UFOs, did I tell you about my experience?
No. I want to hear
Okay,
it.
this happened in France. This happened in 1979 in France. And I was telling a friend of mine years later, because I would never mention what happened to me. Anthony knows this. And I was telling a friend, and he was amazed. Anyway, I was in France and I was lost, more or less, you know. I wasn't lost. We were we were going down to a place called Perpignan, and we were driving, 5 of us. We were picked up by a lad named Gilles Lafont, and he picked us up, and we were all like students at the time, going down and to Perpignan, you know, to spend the summer, which was great, you know. Anyway, as we were going, we were in the Dordogne district, and because we never took these roads that you had to pay, you know, these toll roads, we went the back roads and whatever, and we came across an incline. So as we were coming up, there was cars stopped. There was a couple of caravans, you know, being pulled. There was a camper van. There was a couple of cars. There was our car, and we stopped behind them. We were the last, so we walked over to see what these people were looking at. Now, what we thought, Kalila, was that something had gone up and then toppled over because it was an incline, because it was like a valley, you know.
Mhm.
Over there, you know, there was a valley here. We were here, and there was a valley there. So we thought something toppled over, like you know, one of those big trucks that you have in the States and we have here. And so we looked down. Now, before I tell you what we seen, after it was over, after about 6 minutes, no one was speaking. No one was talking, not even the lads, not even us. We're young lads. We're not talking. We gets back in the car. We drives down for about 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it was. So forget now. And we gets to Perpignan, the periphery, you know, just outside the outskirts, because we always went to this bistro. And when we walked in, we still never said a word to each other. And when we walked in, the proprietor who knew us, you know, he said, "Oh, you know, hello," and you know, and he said, "What was yours like, the beer?" So he got these beers. He's already, you know, we already knew what we were going to drink anyway. So we got the 5 beers, brought it over to the table, and it was this one of the lads turned around. Chris's name was, another English lad. And he turned around and said, "Gentlemen, we are now officially into the space age." I'll never forget that, what he said, because what we'd seen looking down on that incline, looking down, was a metallic grey thing. It wasn't gleamy, it wasn't shiny. It was like a gun, can you say, like a gun colour grey, a gun colour grey. So we were looking at this, and it was huge. It was huge, to say the least. And as we looked at it, it went from down there. As I said, about 6 minutes we were looking. No one said a word. No one was talking. Nobody. We were just mesmerised looking at this thing. And then all of a sudden, it went from there. It was hovering, by the way. It wasn't like on the ground. It was hovering. It was hovering. And it went from there to there, clear blue sky, and it was gone, vertical like that, not like this or like that or like that. It was like that, and it went from there to the blue sky and vanished within 2 seconds.
Wow.
Gone. And I wouldn't say that I wouldn't tell anybody that for years what I'd seen. I wouldn't tell anybody because I knew that it'd be ridiculed. I knew even Anthony knows this writer, a very famous writer in Liverpool, Tom Slemon. And I was telling Tom, I was giving a talk, a historical talk at a wonderful place here in Liverpool called St. George's Hall. And he said to me, I was just telling him about it. First time I ever said anything about it to anybody. He said, can I put that in my book? He said, listen, come on the radio with me on Saturday. I said, no. I said, there's no way I'll tell you that. So I wouldn't go public with it. So what do you think of that thing there, Kalila?
I think it's amazing. I've always wondered something, and I don't know if anybody would agree with this or not, but I've always wondered if some of the UFOs that we see and that people experience, if they're not interdimensional type situations rather than from a different planet. Because you say it disappears in 2 seconds, it almost lends itself into passing into a different dimension.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I've studied in Brazil with some of the mediums there's been a lot of books written. I don't know if you've ever heard of the most famous medium in Brazil was Chico Xavier, and he wrote tons of books, tons. And all of the books he wrote supposedly were written, spirits working through him and writing the books, talking about explaining what the afterlife is. In fact, there is a movie out, and in English it's called Astral City, and you can get it on Amazon. It's streaming on Amazon now. It is in Portuguese and it has English subtitles, but it's called Astral Cities. And it's one of his first stories written by a spirit speaking through him and writing through him, telling what the afterlife is like. And it's the story about a particular doctor, Dr. Andre Luz. And the tagline of the movie is his life began after he died. His real work started after he died. And it was interesting because in the movie and in the book, even when they travel in this area that is the first level of the afterlife, they're getting on what looks like a spaceship, and they're traveling around that way, and they're coming back to visit people on Earth that way. And when they're going in, now this was written, the story was actually written many, many, many years ago, long before computers. And what he describes is when they go to what they call the Hall of Knowledge, which is like some sort of library where they can see what's going on with their loved ones. They're not just seeing, like standing there looking down. They're sitting at a computer, like I'm sitting at right now, looking at a computer screen and tuning in to what's going on with their loved ones on the other side. And it really lends itself, to make me wonder if some of these experiences that people have with what appears to be spaceships is not really something to do with that next level of existence that we go to from here. It's just a theory.
There are too many unexplained things that happen, isn't there? There are too many of them. No matter whether it's these UFO things or the paranormal, like meeting people. I always remember someone like yourself saying that, you're walking past people who are no longer with us. And I couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't get my
All
head
the
around
time.
that. Cool.
But it's not a place. It's the afterlife is not a place. It's not a physical place. It's a different vibration rate. So if you think of everything in the universe being vibration, and that being a different level of vibratory rate, it's a little bit easier to comprehend, because myself and and people like Billy and so forth, mediums, that's what we do. We raise our vibration in order to communicate with that other side. And everything is about vibration and about raising that vibration to reach that other side. So if you think about it in vibration and that sort of thing, in energy, it's a little bit, instead of a physical, because we're in the physical plane, but there's other dimensions that are more about vibration than anything.
Well, this is why, isn't it? I just want to read a couple of comments, which is okay.
Mhm.
What I'm going to say now, then I'll read the comments. This is why the likes of Hollywood, shall we say, and this, anywhere in the world that make films, they do the paranormal. There's a hell of a lot of paranormal stuff that they do. I think one of the most famous ones was Poltergeist, the film Poltergeist. I thought that, excuse me, was unbelievable. It was a real, like, shall we say, frightening. Because I don't know what it is. If I hear noises, I was just hearing noises after that, whether I was just saying, after that Poltergeist. I'll just read a few comments for Mike Kalila, don't we? Dennis Paparak, he says, having spent 1991 to 2018 in Nashville, Tennessee, as its first share of paranormal activity, Bell Witch Cave near Adams Union Station Hotel downtown, mysterious lights on the double R tracks in Chapel Hill. And he carries on by saying, not to mention all the Civil War battles and burial sites. So you might be aware of that. And also the Anfield Roar. Good evening, all you wonderful people. Look at all the pints and scotches for myself and Anthony. He said, I don't know what Kalila drinks, so I went with champagne and chat.
Yeah, great.
Champagne.
Always favorite bubbly.
And he says, Kalila, would you like to have visited the Enfield Spectre if you had the chance? I would love to be in the room when these presences were happening to that family. Do you know anything about that?
I'm vaguely familiar with the Enfield activity, and I don't know too much about it. I saw a television special about it, but I don't know how much of it was fictionalized. But I did see some of the photographs of it. When Billy was alive, we did one of the shows and talked about that one. And some of the photographs were a little were questionable. There was one where the little girl was up in the air, but it looked like maybe she had jumped on the bed, like she had jumped up. It was hard to really prove whether or not it was paranormal, but I understand it's one of the most popular poltergeist experiences that you guys have documented here. But it was hard to tell by the photographs that I was shown, in other words.
Yeah. Well, Tony, what were you going to say? Andy, what were you going to say?
We actually have a similar thing to the Enfield poltergeist hauntings here in Liverpool on Penny Lane, I believe. A street made famous by the Beatles with the barber shop, right? And there's one of the houses there, and these are all kind of Victorian houses, early ones.
Victorian.
Yeah, and there's one of those, and I don't know the number of the house, and I don't know the full story, but when the Enfield project was obviously put on TV, it alerted us Brits of it. And as Frank mentioned, Poltergeist, it's very much in that vibe. And we were thinking, wow, we were quite moved that it was here. But then when you delve into it, obviously you know yourself, this is your occupation, and I know Billy would have been the same, that there's various locations up and down the country that have these special houses or visitors, and the one on Penny Lane was one of them. There's some wonderful haunted stories in Liverpool. We've got a wealth of them. It would be wonderful to welcome you into the city. And
I really want to do some filming. Now, Billy's written 2 books on haunted Liverpool. And his office was on Penny Lane, but I don't have the address. I would love to get the address of that and that house and do a little more reading on that.
I built up a rapport with Billy. Sadly, I didn't meet him when I was doing, I did a series of paintings of Liverpool, well, to me, heroes. And I didn't meet Billy at the time, although I got an email after the shows had been from Dolly. And then through that, I met Billy kind of through email and letters and stuff. And I was due to illustrate one of his books, a children's book. He wanted some stuff redoing that he had done in the past, and one he was working on, because we both love cats, and he'd written a book about cats, and that was my job to do. But sadly, we lost him before I could do it.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, he wrote 2 books on the healing powers of animals, and those are really beautiful. And Dolly grew up in Liverpool, and I don't know. I'm going to have to check with her, or I can check the old show that we did, because I interviewed her about the house she grew up in that was so haunted. I don't know if it was on Penny Lane or not. It may have been, but I know that she grew up in a very haunted house, and it was quite frightening for her. Yes, she gave me a story about a house that she grew up in.
Just so massive. I mean, Frank himself has been to probably one of the most famous haunted buildings in the city, which is the old Newsham Hospital. You know, and that looks scary enough.
Didn't you fall or get hurt in there? Didn't you? Did you?
Yeah,
am I mistaken? Trip or something in there?
Well, it's happened. A friend of mine, Anthony knows him. He's a great photographer. And he said, "Hey, Frank," he said, "Do you fancy going to the museum?" I said, "Oh, yeah." I just went so because I love, buildings, especially old ones. And this one, do you know, like, if you wanted to do a haunting team and the cameras were outside just looking up at this building, it's frightening just outside.
The image of the building is enough. I'm not fazed by I actually believe in the connections, and I take great source of strength from it. But when you hear what Frank was saying, and when you look at the pictures, you think, no way in the world would I want to walk in that building.
Well, honestly, this happened. I'm just expecting, look around, say, "Oh, isn't that wonderful," or whatever. The worst experience. I ran out of it. Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. But this fella wanted to see me. The fella who owned the building. That's why Jared rang me up. He said, "Come up and meet him. He wants you to give a talk there." I said, "Okay." And I was getting paid well, if you know what I mean, for the talk.
Right.
Ask me if he gave the talk. I
Those are
was
scary
when I
places. I mean, you know, at a certain point, you know, and I know that I've gotten to this point where there's certain places, hospitals, mental institutes, cemeteries, you know, I'm very careful about going, oh, wow. That's classic. But some of they hold so much energy, and sometimes even they might not even be an active haunting, it could be residual energy, but residual negative energy can be very, very strong. But like myself at this age, I don't feel as protected against that kind of stuff. So I'm very leery. I mean, back in the day when I was doing a lot of investigations and going into cemeteries, I was going 3 and 4 times a year to a priest in Miami. I was flying in Miami and getting spiritual cleanses and having all that negative stuff pulled off of me. I was going through rigorous spiritual cleanses. And, you know, at a certain point, you know, it was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to cut back on some of this stuff because it's not good to do it after a certain age. It really isn't. I mean, not just for the spiritual negative energy perspective, but I mean, you know, tooling around in the dark and tripping over stuff, you know, myself of all people know how dangerous it is to trip and get hurt and so forth. So, you know, you do want to be careful. You know, oh, you have a message, Frank. You might want to read it. It's pretty funny.
Well, the gentleman who wanted me to give a talk, he said, he shouted, I was, honestly, I just ran out. And I said to Jared, I said, I'm not staying here. There's no way I'm staying here. And the fella, he followed me, Jared. And the fella shouted over from, I don't know what, you know, the top of the stairs outside, you know, he shouted, are you still giving that talk, Frank? I went, when you can imagine what I said to him. And it ended off, to be honest. The Anfield Ross says, talking of ghostly goings on and presences, I wonder if Kalila wouldn't mind finding the British government backbone as it's been dead these past 50 odd years or so. Mark Simons from Gibraltar actually is Mark, and he says, Frank, do you know which grave is the Jack the Ripper in one of St. James's Cemetery, and does it have the Freemasons? I'll show you. If I'm well enough, and you're over, Jordan, I think you come over, don't you, around the end of August, beginning of September to visit your family. When you're over, I should be okay. I should be, hopefully. I'll take you. I'll ask Lainey Anthony to take me over, and I'll show you it. Is that okay? Okay. I'll do that for you. And the Anfield Ross says, I'm a believer in the power and belief of the other side. And I find it great comfort there might be another plane for us to drift to once this life is at an end. I think that's a cracking comment to be. I really did. I really did. And as the Anfield says, Mark Simons, that's an interesting piece of info. And he carries on by saying, Kalila, this is the Anfield Road, do you know anything about the Resurrection Mary, the vanishing hiker? I believe it is in Chicago.
I have heard of that. Yes, I have. I've heard of it, and I've heard of it in Chicago. I've also heard of it in other places. I'm not sure where it originated because it's become somewhat of an urban legend. And because there's a similar story that comes out of Long Island in New York. So it's a little bit debatable. Did it originate in Long Island or did it originate in Chicago? But basically, it's about a young girl who dies, and the way I've heard the story, and this is the one out of Long Island, is she was going to a prom that night and she was killed, and she's in her white prom dress. And she wanders the streets and she hails down a cab, and she's still in her white prom dress trying to get to wherever it is she's trying to go. And she gets into a vehicle with someone and she tells them she wants to go somewhere. And when they get there, they have a conversation with them. They turn around and she's disappeared. But it's become somewhat of an urban legend. It seems like a lot of different places have a similar story to that one.
Well, when I mentioned before about, like people passing people, yet they're not of this earth, they're not alive, if you know what I mean, if you get me meaning. I don't mean aliens or anything, I'm just saying.
No,
people,
right.
Who you think are there, but they're not really there, right? So there was a lady who was telling me, it was one of my students actually, in my class. We were just sitting there, we were just having a cup of tea, and she says, I was going to the cathedral. I was walking up, this Rodney Street here in Liverpool. She said, I just got to the end of Rodney Street. She was going to the Anglican Cathedral, big Gothic thing, and she said there was this fellow on the opposite side, and he just turned around the corner, and he had a top hat on, a long coat, like a Victorian coat, and he was in Victorian garb, with this top hat on, and he had a dog, and he was bouncing a ball. And anyway, so she went, oh, they must be filming around here, because there's a lot of film work that goes on around Liverpool, especially around Rodney Street, where I've just mentioned. And she said, but there was no sound or nothing, no sound, like of people. There was only air and this person across the road from her. And she said, and when I looked, she said, I looked to see if there was a film crew or anything. There was none there. And when I turned and looked again, within a matter of seconds, he was gone. See, where she said she's seen him, there was no way that he could go down another street or anything, because there wasn't any there to go down another street or anything, or even go into, one of the homes. He would have still been outside if he would have been going up the steps into another home. Do you understand? So just disappeared, she said.
I've seen that sort of thing in some of our cemeteries here. There's what we call portals, where there's like an intersection of one intersection of a dimension leading into another. And actually, I was conducting a cemetery tour one evening in the cemetery that we have, one of the few cemeteries, probably the only cemetery that we still bury beneath the ground. It's where we bury people who can't afford the above ground tombs. It's called Holt Cemetery. And it was back before they locked it up. And I used to go in there and take my college classes in there to do investigations. And we were taking tours in there. And I was in there one night, and I know that I had about 22 people. We had 22 people in a bus. And I told them to go over to the right, to where the tree was, to look at the tombs. Do not go down this back road, because when we leave quick, and you won't hear me call for you. Well, I'm watching the people, and as I look over to the left, I see a woman and what looks like two teenagers going down the area I said not to go on. And this woman looked to be about in her 50s or 60s. She had on pink shorts and a flowered shirt and a purse on her arm, and two looked like young teenagers walking with her. And they were walking away, and I started calling to them, and I said, come on, guys, we're getting ready to leave. Don't go down that way. Please don't go down that way. We're getting ready to leave. Come back to the bus. And I'm coaxing them back, and they're ignoring me. They're walking down that way, and I'm saying, hey, and I'm talking louder and louder. And at some point I looked behind me like this, and when I did, there were 22 people standing behind me looking at me like I was nuts.
Wow.
And I said, well, if you're here, who is? And I literally saw them vanish, and it was like, and they're gone. And it was funny. Later on, some later, somebody took a picture of this big oak tree where a lot of voodoo rituals were held, showed me a picture of it, and in the picture was a woman about 50, 60-ish with pink shorts on and a flowered shirt, and she had a basket in her hand. And when I saw the picture, I was like, wow, this is how the lady was dressed that what I saw walking down that road. And later on, someone said, oh, that's so-and-so. She's the lady that used to sell flowers on the corner over here on Canal Street in the 1970s. When people would stop at the red light, she would be there selling roses to people in their cars. And someone did recognize who she was. So it validated who she was. And that picture was the same woman I saw walking away. So I've actually witnessed that sort of thing. Which is, took many years. It didn't happen until I got out of the city and into these outskirts, into some of these cemeteries, and got around some of these what I call portals.
Well, I'm doing a something on the First World War after the break tonight. Anyway, I always read this. It was a story. And it was about a little boy, in a very privileged family. And he was about six years of age. And this was around 1922, something like that, 21, 22. And he goes in, he goes to meet his grandfather in this old stately home or whatever. And he goes in and he goes in to see his granddad. I think it was the first time that he met him in his home. The granddads always came to his home. So when he went in, he looked at a picture, a portrait of a soldier who was, standing there in his uniform, World War I uniform. And this particular soldier was killed in 1916. Right, 1916 at the first Battle of Ypres, the first Battle of Ypres on the 1st of July 1916. So he's looking at and he says, the granddad said, "Oh, that's your uncle," and he came out and said everything about him and how he was killed, everything. And he said to his parents. His son, who was the father of this child, said, he said, never mentioned him. The mother said, never mentioned him. Wow. He knew everything. He even knew where he was killed. Knew everything about him. Knew where he was born, his life, up to the age of when he was killed, 23 years of age. He was engaged to a girl, and when he was coming home, they were going to get married. How was that? How could you explain, Kalila? Could you explain anything about that child looking at a portrait of his uncle or whatever he was?
Well, either the child was doing mediumship, or could the child have been reincarnated if that uncle had died?
That's said, that when I read it, he said he must have been the reincarnation of his uncle or whoever it was. The portrait.
There's been a lot of cases for that support that as well, where children have described things that happened to them in their previous lives, and then when they hit a certain age, they forget. But there's certain documentation to support that. And the kids that are being born now, the kids the generation that's coming up now, I mean, I don't know every child out there, but I have two great-grandkids. One is 7, almost 8 years old. He'll be 8 years old in June. And one just turned 4. And these kids are like, I mean, we joke about it and say this one's 7 going on 40. And the 3-year-old is getting ready to turn 4 in a couple of days. she's 3 going on 35. They're very old souls. And I am convinced that these kids are reincarnated. They've lived before. I mean, they come, it's amazing to me. They know so much. They just come into this world and they know so much. And they're clearly old souls. And what I find really interesting was that I used to babysit my great grandson when he was little, from the time he was 6 months to 4 years old. And as a tiny baby, he could barely walk. He could just stand up. He had a fascination with music from the 1950s and 60s. An absolute fascination with it. And it was familiar to him. And he would get up, he would stand and hold on to stuff and dance to it. And it was like he connected to it. It's like, how would he know? How could he have possibly known?
Exactly.
There's got to be something to support it. There's so much out there. And, I'm not saying yay or nay, I believe in it, I don't believe in it or anything like that. But there's so much out there that supports it. And there are experts out there on reincarnation. Dr. Brian Weiss is one of them. And he's written several books on it that has case after case after case that definitely supports that not only do we go on and live in other dimensions, but some of us do come back. Personally, I don't want to come back here. I want to go to the next level. I think the next level looks a lot better because I don't want to come back to this one.
No,
but,
this is it, isn't it? We all think where if there is any, reincarnation or, if there's whatever, and we come back. I wouldn't like to come back as a shoe.
As a shoe?
We don't mean an animal shoe. I mean a shoe that you wear. Is he coming back as a shoe? But anyway, the Alfred says, is there any history of a piece of artwork that has been known to be haunted? When going to the National Portrait Gallery, Queen Victoria's eyes followed me about, but I'm a stunner, so I can't blame her. He was joking.
There have been this of haunted portraits. I've heard of that.
Picked up a book during my 1990 visit to London about the ghost of Tower of London. Fun read. That's what he says. So
Tower of London is supposedly very, very haunted.
Well, yeah, there is something that Dennis says. Ghost of the Tower of London by J. inverted commas Bud Abbott became a beefeater in 1974, retired from the RAF 8 years later, originally published in 1980, and that's about hauntings, which sounds good. And the Anfield Law says, I was reading a lovely article about our Anthony Brown. Now I'm known. Is that known? BBC fan. I'm no BBC fan, but it must be their last good piece of journalism. It was about Neptune Building 2012, probably the last time the BBC did a good article. How about that?
Bravo.
That's about you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Kalila, thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully
Frank, thank you. I have some plans in the works. You were talking to somebody about August. I was supposed to do an investigation in Burton-upon-Trent at a friend's house, and she's not available in March. She had to work, but she's off the month of August. So I'm planning on coming back to do that investigation. So might be a good month to do the filming in
That'll
Liverpool.
Be fun. I might be okay by then. Show you the
I'm definitely planning the trips. This is not my only trip to the UK. This is definitely going to be the only.
Well, Burton Wood's an old army base. Did you know that? Well,
no.
Air Force Burton Woods during the Second World War.
Wow.
And Jason sent to me, just sent a message to me. When I said I wouldn't like to come back as a shoe or a pair of shoes, he said, shoes have souls.
There you go. There you go.
So love it. But I just want to show you this before you go. And it's about UFOs being chased. And that's during the fly past in London.
Was that during the crowning of the king?
It could have been it could have been, yeah. It could have been. I never watched it.
I found several articles that said that somebody spotted that there were spottings of a UFO while King Charles was being coronated.
That's mad, that, isn't it? Really, that is. And that's the thing about UFOs. You mentioned Mexico before, and they've got footage of these things, you know, these unbelievable things. Do you ever look? I have to go, honestly. Do you ever look at a fella named George Knapp, Kalila?
No.
No, he's an investigative on the television, and he goes back when he was younger. He was just an ordinary presenter, and someone mentioned about UFO, so he went out. You know, the studio sent him out to investigate this thing, you know, about UFOs. And anyway, he went out because he wasn't a believer or anything. He just went out on a job, on an assignment. And what he said today is unbelievable. He, honestly, you know. And the Amphir says, before you go, Kalila, can I ask why there were so many great fires in your city's history? Also, New Orleans, great city, and I always feel when I'm there, it feels like Europe to me. Also, get shrimp, po' boys.
Well, yes, I know for the po' boys. We've only had two major fires that burned down the city. One was in 1788, and that was caused by a man's altar. It was on the eve of Good Friday, and the someone was praying to his personal altar, because back then they had their altars in their homes, and curtains blowing over a candle caught fire. And back then the houses were all made out of wood, and the only way to alert the community of the fire was for him to run down the street and have the church bells rung. But because it was the eve of Good Friday, the priest had spent the entire day tying down the bells so that would not accidentally ring on Good Friday. And they couldn't untie them fast enough, and the wind swept the city. Now that one's got a haunted story to it, because they claim on every around midnight on the eve of Good Friday every year that you can hear the bells ring that should have rung on the eve of Good Friday. But the other one was in 1796, and that one occurred because children were playing in a barn and accidentally knocked over a lamp that was an oil lamp. It started a fire, and of course, again, raged through the city, both times burning down about 90% of what was the city of New Orleans.
Wow,
So,
that's incredible. And just on that note, I just want to say hello to DW. Hey, Frank, Anthony, Kalila, and chat. I haven't seen DW for ages, because we go on some certain things, you know, alternative news, shall we say. And we're really into the alternative news, if you like, you know, present day, what's going on in the world today. And it's great just to see DW, just to say hello, you know, it's absolutely wonderful. And I've been ill, DW, I've been seriously ill. That's why you haven't seen me on any of the shows. But anyway, that's another story. Kalila, mille grazie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and it's wonderful to see you as well. Always. And Anthony,
is there somewhere where I or we can follow your stories and your adventures? Do you have a site?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook page. I do have a site. I've got more on it, more updated things on my Facebook page, but I've got a site called KalilaSmith.com. And of course, the tours that I manage, hauntedhistorytours.com. And but I do have a Facebook page, and it is, Facebook. It's facebook.com/Kalila1, number 1. And we also have a Facebook page for Haunted History Tours. So, but that's the best way to follow on Facebook. I'm more active on Facebook than anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalila. Thank you. And I've got to go to a break.
Continued.
Yes, will. Definitely will continue. Thank you so much. I'll see you very, very soon. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night, guys.
Thank you, Kalila.
We're in the part of town known as the Holy Corner, and this is why. Paradise Street, Whitechapel, Lord Street, Church Street. Have a look at this. Have a look at this building next to the old beehive here in Paradise Street. People might think that this is part of an old church. It's not. In fact, it was a department store, and it was built and designed by Welby Pugin, who was an architect, very famous architect of churches throughout the land. Church Street, the hub of the shopping area, and at my feet is the connection with the church. This is the site of St. Peter's Church, built in 1701, and when Liverpool received its city status in 1880, it became the pro-cathedral, and unfortunately it was demolished in 1923 when we had our own Anglican cathedral. An old street trader once told me that you could set up your stall anywhere in Church Street except on the cross, because that was more or less a sanctuary stone. Here we are in Castle Street, and people every single day walk past this little gem. The British Maritime Insurance Building was built by George Grayson in 1882, and what's depicted on it is not only the maritime sailing ships, but also the very first steamship that sailed out of Liverpool, which was Isambard Kingdom Brunel's Great Eastern. Incidentally, how many of the 45,000 people that pack Liverpool Football Club every home game know that the mast that's on the Kop end is actually the mast from the Great Eastern? The mosaic frieze on the building depicts from 1207 the sailing ships right up to the first steamship, which was Great Eastern. For well over 100 years in the business quarter of the city, it still goes unnoticed by the passerby. This is a tale of two cathedrals within one, and I'll explain in a minute. I mentioned the tale of two cathedrals a moment ago. Well, Sir Frederick Gibbard designed the top half of the cathedral in all its modern splendour. And this is the symbolic crown of thorns placed on Christ's head. And the blue stained glass represents the heavens. And the splashes of red is the blood of Christ, as the crown of thorns is forced upon his head.
Below here, in the crypt, was designed by Sir Edwin Lutyens, who never got to finish his masterpiece because of money wrangles. Incidentally, it would have been the second largest cathedral in the world.
Sir Edwin Lutyens ingeniously recreated Christ's tomb to great effect. Just have a look at this. This magnificent brickwork represents the sunburst and the halo as Christ lies suffering on the cross. No matter where you look in this remarkable cathedral, you'll always find something new and exciting. Whether it's up in Sir Frederick Gibbett's part of the cathedral, or here down below in Sir Edwin Lutyens' crypt.
Both that.
Amazing. I love that cathedral, but obviously you take us backstage there with everything you do. It's just wow.
But you know what, Anthony? I was standing there. I was inside there one day, and this fella was pointing, and he was talking to a lady, small lady, and he was pointing over at me, and I went. And anyway, this lady came over. I showed her around, and she was amazed. She said, "Thank you so much," because I was explaining what I was explaining there on that piece of film about the stained glass, but also about the Stations of the Cross by Sean Rice. Fantastic. Anyway, do you know who the lady was? Rita Tushingham.
Oh,
What a lovely lady.
legendary scouse.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful.
She's lovely, lovely voice, lovely accent. And
Yeah.
she said, "Can't take you home." Oh, she's joking. RDW's with us. Do you know what? He says there, "Yeah, Frank, you've been there. Sorry to hear you've not been too well. You're looking good anyway, thank you. Sorry for my part and not looking into your shows. RDW, I'm really made up that you're here and you've actually been looking at that. Do you know what, DW? You know where Myra Page, she comes on with us, doesn't she? Well, she tunes into my Friday show, and it's you might enjoy it because it's like what we watch. It's a current affairs and what's going on in Ukraine and Gaza, what's, from Biden to Trump and about him. And so there's a lot of things like that about Starmer. And if you heard what Lukashenko said today in his press conference where he calls him Stormer. Keir Starmer, he called him.
Stormer.
Oh, it was so funny. Obviously, it was just a thing. And the thing is, that door, it was incredible. That was the first time, believe it or not, when we were filming that that are being used because they don't use it. Because it represents the tomb of Christ. And they said, we don't really use it. Anyway, we got permission. And it's a very unusual, you'll never see that on anything else. The movement of that tomb, the wheel. You'll never see.
The sound of it is just amazing.
Yeah, because when you look at that, I was in there and I was standing there. And when it came out, a big beam of light, sunshine, it hit me. And I thought, wow, there's only been 2 beams of light that have hit me from the sunshine. There, and one in the Vatican, St. Peter's Cathedral. I couldn't believe it. A beam of light went up to some priest. And I went to shake his hands, and a beam of light hit. It was incredible. And I went over to the tomb. I don't know whether you've been in there. I went over to the tomb of Pope John the 23rd.
No.
And I was looking at it. This coffin, glass coffin. And as I was looking at it, I went, God, I said, that's a fantastic wax thing, the image of him. Wax, I thought, it was him. It was him. It wasn't wax or anything. It was Pope John the 23rd. Couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So that there are things, are unexplained, in my opinion. That's it. And the Emperor says, they videoed that one, Frank. And the DW says, that sunburst brickwork is pretty effing cool. Like, the thing is, DW, Lutyens wanted it like that. He said, I want beams. And like, where that beam of light is coming from, he was down there apparently, and he was looking around, and the windows weren't even done. And, like you have clouds, and the cloud just turned. And a beam of light, the sunlight. And he went, I want that on there. That's what he said. I want that, said Edwin Lutyens. And they built the beam of light. That's the sunburst.
Yeah.
That's the sunburst. And DW says, it was like something out of Indiana Jones, to be honest, Frank.
Yeah.
Amazing that this stuff is under our feet. Kudos to you. Made it your business to bring this stuff into public knowledge. Thank you so much for that, Dave.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Really well. I'm going to show you a map here, boys. I'm going to show you a map. Look at this. And that's Liverpool. That's Liverpool. Now, can you see me little dots there?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
I see.
Now, when you look at this is unbelievable. This was made in 1934, and you see Liverpool the way it was. And you've got the ring road here. This was going to be the ring road here, right across. Because they've done away with a lot of things, unfortunately. They've done away with a lot of things. And when you look, I want to show something which is incredible. And it's now that's not the Mersey Tunnel, this here. Can you see that? Yeah. That's not the Mersey Tunnel. That is the very first tunnel in the world to go underwater. No one has ever done a tunnel that went underwater. And it went from James Street Station to Hamilton Square.
Yeah.
And when you think about that no other country in the world, not even the Americans, attempted to go underwater. Nobody. And we did it. Liverpool did it. And it's one of the most remarkable, this is just my opinion, by the way, one of the most remarkable engineering feats in the world, and it is. And the other engineering feat, again, which is incredible, was the overhead railway. Now, people think about, the overhead railway. Yeah, well, it's just the overhead railway. It was a special overhead railway because it was the first of its kind. We never just built an overhead railway for trains to run along. We built an overhead railway to use electricity. And it was the first electrified overhead railway in the entire world. Not only that, but it also had the very first escalator, electrified escalator, electrified signals, everything of that overhead railway. It was a museum piece. It was a museum piece. And what did we do? We decided to knock it down in 1956, 57. We decided to demolish it. This is the mentality of some people going back then. And that's only in our lifetime, haven't we?
Yeah, I know.
The overhead railway. Your dad had been on.
Oh, my dad was in awe of it. The family were can be, my mum's side, my granddad and uncles and stuff. They were dockers. They used it for work, but it was just magnificent. I grew up hearing stories about it. My dad was absolutely heartbroken when it went. More so when they took a trip. My mum and dad in the 90s took a trip on one of these city things to America, where you go to 3 or 4 cities, and he went to San Francisco, and there's a similar thing there, and Singapore, they went there, and there's the same. The overhead railway would still be in existence. It wasn't faulty. It wasn't going to fall apart. No.
It just shows you, though, doesn't it? Like my Uncle Jerry told me about, and he used to go on it, and he used to go to work. And what got me as well, it was a monument, It was a monument. And there are 2 monuments in this city that have been demolished. One, the overhead railway, and I'll explain why. And the other one was the Sailors' Home.
Yeah.
The Sailors' Home. And they were demolished within 20 years of each other. Less than 20 years of each other. Yeah. And that's the shocking state of city planners. Yeah. And I'll tell you for why. I'll tell you for why, Anthony. That these were monuments. They were monuments to the likes of people who came out of the 1841 John Cunningham Sailors' Home to go to wars.
Yeah.
To go to wars. Yeah. Who were killed. The overhead railway. When lads were coming in and they had to get to barracks and everything during the First World War, especially, they had to use the overhead railway. They had to use it to get to their barracks, or get to their wherever. They used the overhead railway, and they knocked them down. They knocked pair of them down, demolished them.
Yeah.
They should have been monuments. They should have been plaques. Today, if they would have still been there. That lads, say, for example, coming out of the sailors, it wasn't just sailors, It was all the armed forces, not just sailors who stayed in the Sailors' Home. And they should have had a plaque saying, these are the gates or whatever, that men came through. I was disappointed when me and a lad named Phil Griffiths from Birkenhead located the gates down in the Midlands, and we wanted them back off the sailors. So anyway, we finally got them back, but there was too many people jumping on the bandwagon, and I went, who are these people? They never had a clue about the gates or anything. Anyway, I wasn't even invited down to the unveiling of them, but you know, I wanted a plaque on them. I said to somebody, get a plaque on them. You know, one of the councillors, I don't know, or some prat. Anyway, I said, I'll put a plaque there or put it at the side saying what people went through these gates and never returned, and give the wars that they went to, from the Crimean right up to the Korean War. Why don't you just put a plaque up like that? 2 world wars, Crimean War, every war. And they never came back. Oh no, you know, because these are just the... And, you know, so it's things like that really... People look at them and, you know, in Paradise Street and say, oh, aren't they lovely, isn't it great? But a plaque should be there to explain.
Should be. Yeah.
The importance of these gates.
There's even more they can do now. We live in a technical age where everyone's got a phone, whether you like it or not. There's a thing where you can put like a barcode on a stand, and by scanning that barcode, it will bring to your phone or your iPad or your whatever the full story. Could be videos, could be anything.
Yeah.
And it, you know, what's the cost in that?
Exactly.
Why isn't it not that? Town planners did more damage to this city than 2 world wars.
Yes, they did. It was horrible. You know, it's horrible what they did. And, you know, you look at certain things. It's like, you know, I'll tell you who used it. I'll tell you who used the overhead railway. And he had to use it. And it's one of our, you know, it's a people who you and I, and lots of other people, to be honest, who know about this man. And that was Wilfred Owen.
Yeah.
Wilfred Owen used the overhead railway, not just once or twice, but he had to use it. And you know, so it's people like him, Wilfred Owen. Wilfred Owen, if people don't know who he was a World War I poet. A World War, and he gave the horrors of war. And his poetry was banned. It wasn't published. It was never published, even during the time that he was writing it, from the trenches. And they were just banned until 1930, because he explained about the horrors. Everything had to be about patriotism and how great it is and everything else. Like, you know, it's you look at all the patriotic poets, which I love, by the way. I love the patriotism that come out of these poets. But you also should have a balance. But the balance was never shown until 30 years later, the likes of Wilfred Owen. If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England shaped and built, made aware. You know, the likes of that very patriotic. And he got that, Rupert Brooke, from one of his great Shakespearean characters, which was John O'Gaunt, when he said, this precious stone set in the silver sea, this fortress built by nature for herself against the envy of less happier lands, this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this teeming womb of royal kings, you know, and he, oh, wow, that inspired him to write.
Yeah.
The soldier, if I should die, think only this of me. You see, so it's great inspiration. And the likes of Owen, you know, the only inspiration he got was from Siegfried Sassoon, another great writer, another great poet.
Yeah.
And Sassoon, he was writing all this poetry about patriotism until his brother Michael was killed. His brother Michael was killed. And then he just changed his mind then. And he started to write about the horrors and what was going on in Parliament. And he actually went to Parliament to criticise this war of attrition. And he said, you can stop this tomorrow. You can stop it. So rather than putting them up against the wall, because if it would have been you or I as a little private, you'd have been shot.
You would have been
executed.
Yeah.
So he sent him to Craig Lockhart up in Scotland, and that's where he met Wilfred Owen, who was there wounded.
Yeah.
And you know they got talking. He said, you know, you're a great poet. I greatly admire you. This is Owen to Sassoon, and they became friends. And so anyway, they said to Sassoon, Parliament, we'll let you go back if you don't like bother us again. We'll let you go back to your men, because all he was saying, can I go back to my men? That's what he was saying. The same as Wilfred Owen.
Yeah.
I just want to get back to my men, because the French officers were great people, you know. They weren't like these colonels or generals. They were ordinary men who looked after their people. They looked after their people, or they tried to. And unfortunately, the likes of Wilfred Owen was killed, sniped, exactly 1 week on the 4th of November 1918, 1 week before Armistice Day.
Yeah.
And you know that's the irony.
That's the point.
The great Wilfred Owen.
His mum received notification of his death on the day D-Day, when the streets were bouncing with people celebrating the end of the war. She received a letter, saying your son's not coming home. Whatever.
Well, that's it. I think one of the greatest stories, and I have mentioned this, was a lad by the name of John Davis from Birkenhead. Yeah. And what happened there, they were getting over, they were going through a canal. The water was up to here. And they were going through this canal, but they were being pinned down by a machine gun post by the Germans, and they were picking them up. And they couldn't go back. They couldn't, so they were more or less surrounded or whatever. And he said, I sod this. And he wades across, and they were saying, come back, you're going to be killed. This is the lads, you know. He said, we're all going to be killed, he said. So he got to the parapet of the canal, lifted himself up, and runs towards the machine gun post. And then all of a sudden, there was a plume of dust and smoke and everything, some shelling, you know, around there. And he never returned. And the lads thought, you know, anyway, when he was mentioned about what he did, the lads were saved, by the way. They got through. And when they told him, he was mentioned in dispatches, and he was awarded the Victoria Cross posthumously. And when you get the Victoria Cross, and there it is, that's the Victoria Cross. So he was awarded that posthumously. you had the juxtaposition of his family, you know, his parents, because he was only a young man. And his mother was, you know, and his dad was grieving, you know, but so excited that, you know, he got something out of it, which was what the highest medal, military medal that you can win, a Victoria Cross. But they grieved. They grieved because they just lost their only son. And then after the war, a knock on the door, and the mother goes to answer it. And who stands in there? His son. His son is standing. He said, hello, ma'am. You can imagine the mother, the emotion, you know, and even like what she was thinking at the time. She said that she was dreaming it. She dreamt it. And he said, Mum, it's me. He was taken prisoner. And he's the only man, soldier, to receive a Victoria Cross posthumously, yet lived to receive it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the greatest stories. You couldn't even write it. A Hollywood writer couldn't write that.
No.
A Hollywood writer couldn't write that. But that's what I mean about. He must have used the overhead railway. He must have done. It could have even been staying in the sailor's home.
Yeah.
Could have been staying there.
Yeah.
Waiting to be.
Waiting to ship.
Yeah.
To ships. Go over there.
Yeah. And do you know what else? I strangely enough, I was watching YouTube just before I came on here. And Sink the Bismarck came on. And I was sitting there watching it. Now, I knew about Sink the Bismarck, you know, the film. And I still can't get over it. I love Kenneth More, you know, all the stalwart actors, you know, great British actors, wonderful stuff. And you see him walking through by Nelson's monument down in London, right? So you see Piccadilly Circus, and I'm like, Trafalgar Square, I'm going, hang on a minute, that should be Liverpool. And then, you know, during the film, and you had Ed Murrow, you know, a proper journalist for American radio at the time, and he said, you know, beneath the London thing, and you know, and all this, and you know, they had this great base of where all ships were tracked. And the Bismarck was tracked there. And it wasn't. It was tracked here. This is why it was called the Battle of the Atlantic.
Yeah.
The headquarters here.
Yeah.
With Sir Max Horton. And that's how I don't know why filmmakers, especially then, put London there. Why? Why the hell did they put London there? As, you know, the Scharnhorst was tracked, the Bismarck was tracked, the Graf was tracked, you know, from London. They weren't. They were tracked from Liverpool. This is where they were getting all the information from. And it's shocking. And I was so disappointed, but, you know, great film, nevertheless. Great film. But a phony location, very phony. So people will think, watching that, even today, even tomorrow, and in the future
Yeah.
that the Bismarck was tracked from London through that
Yeah.
film, and it wasn't. It was tracked from
Did you?
Liverpool.
Yeah. Did you? And you know better than all of us in that historically, if someone puts down lies or basically half truths
Yes,
about history, they will be repeated by someone who does a book following them. It's copy and paste, and so all of the the untruths get rehashed as history, where the factual information gets lost.
but
And
one of the greatest. I'll prove something. What you've just said, I'll prove it. Two incidents. One was the Americans made a film, and it was their film. It was they who seconded the Enigma machine, and it wasn't. It was us. It was the British. And they had to stop no one went to see the film because everybody kicked off about it, saying, no, you can't be saying that, you're changing history. Right? So it just collapsed the film.
yeah,
Now, because they were trying to say, the Americans, what the Americans are like. Now, my granddaughter, and I'm made up with this, my granddaughter loves history. Anthony, my granddaughter, Sophia, loves history, and I'm absolutely delighted with it. And she's only turned 12. Now, when you think about it, she's always asking about certain things. I was talking to her yesterday, and here's what she said, and this blew me. This. She came home and she was doing the Tudors. And this is where it shouldn't be allowed. It's like changing history for some reason or other. And she came one day chatting before I sent her home in a cab. And she really thought, as I said, she was mentioning the Tudors, but she was mentioning the wives of Henry VIII. And have a guess what she said. And it was only because of the BBC. And they'd shown something about Anne Boleyn. But Anne Boleyn was not what you thought she was. And a black actress played it. So Sophia thought that Anne Boleyn was a black lady.
yeah,
And I said Anne Boleyn was the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. I said, is she black? She said, no. I said, she wasn't black. I said, it was just a film. It was just a film. I tried to explain.
yeah.
And that's the danger.
It is dangerous. Yeah, yeah.
It's changing the face of history.
It is. There's something we've talked about often about if you want to know about a person or a thing, then you need to read 5 or 10 books about it, not one concise university stamped book to say this is it. Because the truth of these matters doesn't often come out. No, it's a wonderful thing when someone praises a piece of TV work and says that's as close to the truth as you can get. Well, that's great for me.
But it's so that really upset me. To be honest, DW says 17 people were killed building it. Yeah, they were. I think a few more as well. TW. I think a few more. That's the overhead. by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bill Clopper statue. Bill Clopper statue. That's a good Christian name, isn't
The clock statue.
it? Hey, gents. Good evening. I hope you're all okay. Yes. And he says, I have to say, I'm not much into history, but I'm glad to hear you two wholesome fellas. You'll never walk alone. Isn't that lovely?
That's lovely. Thank you.
And he carries on by saying, did you see the Snow White film by Disney? And again, say, you see, so it's like, it's not like literature, it's everything. And as I said about that, the American film, it's like, I was mentioning this, I don't know what I was mentioning as well. It's like Pocahontas, you know, when the animation film came out about Pocahontas.
Yeah.
And I said, that's wrong. She married this John Smith. Now, John Smith is one of my military heroes. He's a great man, John Smith. A great adventurer. Unbelievable. And he actually escaped, this fella, John Smith, from slavery. He escaped from slavery by the Arabs. The Arabs captured him and put him to slavery. But anyway, he escaped. Anyway, as I said, he was a great man, and he gets to a place called Roanoke in America, Virginia. And he said to, this particular thing, he says, I'm here. He said, I'm going to keep you here. You'll be all right. Because they just wanted to go back home, these people. The new migrants, shall we say, into America. The best Virginians, they were. And 1680, something like that, they first went over. But this was in 1606. And he said, no, you're staying here, we'll be all right, I'll look after you. Now, in the animation thing of Pocahontas, she married John Smith, this great adventurer, this great soldier, this great whatever. But it wasn't him she married. It was a fellow who was very bland. A fellow named John. Always forget his second name.
Major.
Sorry,
John Major.
John Major. Yeah, very bland. Yeah, a grey man. And he was a tobacco merchant. This fella, John Walton. John Walton, his name was. So she married this John Walton. Yet, when Hollywood look at certain things, they go, no, we can't have him as the husband. Yeah, I'll pick this fella. He seems a bit all right. A bit more into a character. And that's how they change history.
That's right.
That's how they change. Little realising that people actually look at that and take it for their granted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been my pet hate for all of our life. I mean, we can go back and criticise so many things, but certainly our education system when we were kids. And today is the greatest of all messages about untruths and not discussing what went on with the Holocaust. I bet when I do not remember ever once a teacher, a lecturer, anyone talking to us when I was a kid about the Holocaust. You grew up and you heard like Chinese whispers of what went on, you know. And I was reading today all sorts of many things because it's the most horrific part of history, as we know, in almost our lifetime of history, certainly our family's lifetime, and it's horrific what we didn't know and what we're still finding out now after 80 years. And it's just incredible. And I only mention that because that's an example of what we're talking about, how we are not in control of what people divulge to us as factual information, whether it be in a child's movie or a storybook or comics or, you know.
Exactly, and that's the sad indictment, you see, because if people start changing history, you might as well. It's like Trump the other day.
Yes.
Trump turned around and said, I couldn't believe it. Oh, TW's still with us, mightn't be, but if he is, Trump turned around and said, I like the Russians because they helped us to win the Second World War. They helped us. 2/3 of the German army, the might of the German army, were fighting the Russians, the Soviets. 2/3. Yet only 1/3 was fighting the Allies around Normandy. 1/3. Just imagine if those 2/3 would have been fighting the Allies.
Horrific.
The Allies.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I'm going to let you still here. TW, what do you think of Trump? What do you think of Trump on that statement? The Soviets helped us, America, to win the war. Can you comment, please? I'd love a little comment to see what you think. I couldn't believe it. See, people, ordinary Americans have believed that.
Yeah.
Hey, those Russians, they helped us because they think that they're the saviors of everything. I always remember the inauguration of Obama, and I couldn't believe what he said. And I said, what's he coming out with that for? And he went, in his inauguration speech, you can go back and look at it, and he said, we won the 2 world wars. That's what he said. We won the 2. And there was no need to say anything like that. This great American country of ours, we won the 2 world wars. We won the 2 world. I couldn't believe it. Why didn't he say? And we got beaten there, Vietnam and Afghanistan. Although wasn't Afghanistan was still another thing there. But you see what I mean?
Yeah. No, I yeah.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely.
In England, going back to whatever Guy Fawkes and before that, now English history, there was the thing about history was recorded in the King's Book, and the great old snides that we despise and that come up in history every so often, and Robert Cecil and his father and the like say, if you want to know the facts, go to the King's Book because it's all ledgered up. So they would write lies and basic storytelling. They go in the book, and then that's history, fact, boom.
Well, DW says, Trump's remarks were way off. He's not alone, though, to be honest. They are celebrating the liberation of Auschwitz today without him.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that on
Yeah.
I'm talking about that TW on Friday. I have a show, that goes out at 8:00, and I'll be talking all about that. And it's shocking. I'll just say they weren't invited over to the 80th anniversary of the ending of the war in France, and that's shocking. That's shocking.
Yeah.
I just can't make why America out by saying these things like we're great, we've got bigger things than you, you've got more of this and more of that. And he came out DW, as you know, and also said that the Orishnik, which that unbelievable super missile thing that the Russians have. And someone mentioned about these missiles, ballistic missiles, and he said that under the Obama administration, the Russians robbed the plans of these ballistic. He just comes out and says all these tough things.
Well, it's like we were talking before, and it's now been blatantly underlined that because all of his cronies, there is no fact checking in the world.
No.
There hasn't been for a long time. You know that, and I know that. And if you want to know the facts, you have to go underground, sideways, whatever, and talk to real people.
Absolutely. But he goes on to say they are celebrating the liberation of Auschwitz today without invite, even though it was the Russians who liberated Auschwitz.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And the black and white boy says, the black and white. I love these two, black and white boy and Bill Clocker statue. Anyway, the US got to keep them wars coming to sell those arms. That's what it's all about.
That's the one, yeah.
The military complex, the industrial military complex.
Yeah.
And the DW says, I'll finish on this if I might, Anthony. I'll try to be there, Frank. Your shows are relaxed and warm. I forgot how nice they are to listen. Oh, thank you so much, DW.
Yeah.
That's a lovely thing to say, and everybody else on here. And I'll finish on that wonderful comment. Thank you. I'll just say, I just want to thank Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the show. Please get them along. Please, please, please get them along. Don't struggle. Please do not struggle with, if you're trying to do anything, especially in weather like this. Get them in. They're very reasonable. If you're NHS work, get them in simply because you get a special discount. If you're an elderly person like Anthony there, get them in. So, I'm only joking.
You're only old.
Don't tell me. But get them in. There's a special discount, ladies and gents. Honestly, thank you so much for Gap Painting Services, and also to Anthony and Kalila, the lovely lady from America, Kalila, for joining us tonight. Also to Jason Pennington for setting everything up and putting things up like this.
Absolutely.
That'll frighten me tonight. If I dream about that, I'm doing no more show.
I know. Well, that's right. It stuck in my mind the first time you talked about it.
Look.
I know.
I'm still there.
I know.
Horrible place. But anyway.
What time of day was it when you went in there?
It was like around lunchtime. And do you know what? He said, we were standing on this balcony, like a staircase balcony, He said, this is where I want you to give the talk. And I'm like that. I said, oh, no, this was before I seen something else. And I'm going, oh, yeah. I said, are you getting this? All the paintwork was like flaky. And I mean big flaky, coming off the walls that you see. I said, are you getting this done? He said, oh, no. He said, this is what I want atmosphere. I said, okay then. He said, but this is where you're talking. And I said, okay then. He said, there'll be very, very special guests, coming along. I said, you mean to talk? And he said, no, for the dinner. And I said, okay then, yeah. Then he brings me down into this like conservatory sort of thing, where a tree, like, that's gone into it. It's all open and it's smashed. And I looked over and I went, and I said to, asked Jared Flynn, I said to Jared, I said, you seen that? He said, what? I said, that fucking thing there, sorry to swear, people. I said, that fucking thing moved, and it was a wheelchair. It moved. It just moved like that. He said, it must be the wind. And I'm looking around for the fella, the owner. And he said, are you all right, boys? I said, yeah. I said, that just moved there. And he looked at it, he said, I'm saying no notice. I said, don't fucking notice of it. So anyway, we walked through. And then we walked in, and I said, this is great, this. Because it took my mind off everything, the flaky paint, that rope that I seen, because I said, is that where he's on there? Because it was in a gym. It was in a gym, and there was a rope hanging down. And I said, did they swing on that, for the exercise and that? He said, no. He said, that's where the girl hangs herself. I said, fuck it, the rope. And I went, oh. So anyway, when I was in this place, it was all nice and shiny. How thick I am. It was all nice and shiny, these things, Spotless, shiny, stainless steel. And I went like that. Fucking hell, I said, are these ovens? He said, no. He says, this is the mortuary. That's where the body's gone. I said, oh, fuck. That's where they ran out. Jeff just going out.
Wow.
He said, where are you going? I said, fuck that. Wow. I said, well, he shouted over to me, Frank, are you? I said, fuck.
Wow.
Go back here. Well,
the first time we talked about that for a while, we had your good friend Jamie on with us.
Jamie, yeah.
Jamie has had some kind of cross experiences, and listening to you two on that night just freaked me out. And I'd say I'm not normally bothered by going to. I do believe there's not much of a separation between. It's like a veil between one world and the other, but no way in a million years am I going near there, tell you ever. But after listening to you, and then Jamie would say, oh, but yeah, and then this, and I'm just thinking, oh my God.
Well, he brought us down to this bloody thing, Jamie Williams, and I'm bloody Jason Malari. He said, do you fancy going with him? I said, oh, yeah, okay. And he brought us down to this Lomax place, building. So anyway, we go down there, and this is a haunting theme. And I said to Francine, she said, are you going anywhere, Taz? I said, yeah, I'm going to see this haunting theme. This is genuine, this. So anyway, we get down there. Francine's over in a pub. I forget what pub. Anyway, she's over in the pub with a mate. She brings a mate, Caramelia. So they're in there, they're having a baby. And I'm in here now. And I didn't think Francine was coming down because she told me where she was. I think she was in the post house. So anyway, the next was this lad who was bringing us around. He said, Jamie, he said, now listen, he said, I'm bringing you upstairs to me, a lad named Paul Frost, who's a photographer, friend of mine, and Jason. And he said to the group, Francine came in then with her mate Carol, and he said to the little crowd that was with us, he said, you stay here, you'll be all right. He said, we're just going upstairs for a few minutes. this is genuine, this. So he goes upstairs, and we're by this balcony, and cut a long story short. And he says, and we're looking down, you know, and there was a chair, and it was against the wall. Now, there was a colleague of mine, John Away, historian, and he was with us, but he was downstairs. And two things he said. Jamie, was it Jamie or this fella? It was Jamie. He said, I said, what's that chair doing over there? He said, someone will feel sick and walk over there and sit in that chair, feeling nauseated. Someone will stand over there against the balcony, and he'll turn around and look, and no one will be by him. Someone will be by him, but no one's there, right?
Yeah.
So I went, yeah, okay. So anyway, we went down, and he brought them up. Now, don't forget, Caramelia, Francine's mate, she was well unaware of this because she just came down with Francine, you know what I mean? So they came up, and we're going around, and he's looking at this and there was this fucking noise. It was a horrible noise. And everyone went, oh, even me, oh, you know, what was that? And he said, that's all right. He said, it's just like the wind coming in and taking the letterbox or whatever. He said, don't be worrying about it. So we get by this balcony. Right. So we're standing by the balcony, and he's talking all that, like these like haunting things. And the next, Francine's mate, Carol, she goes, I feel sick. And no one told her. She goes over to that chair and sits down. Sits down. Right? And I'm looking like that, I go, fuck. And then all of a sudden, John Aware, fellow historian, he starts looking around and going around like that. No one near him. And this is where Jamie said, someone will move. Someone will sit on that chair, nauseated. Someone, it's wherever they stand, you see. And someone will move, you know, will move there. And it was John Away. And John even said on my show, he said, someone was around me. Somebody was around me. He said, I felt, and I could feel like a breath on me. He said, I was frightened, but no one was here. No one was there. And he was standing on his own. The very same incident happened in St. George's Hall, where I was given a talk. And I was given a talk in the main, not the main hall or the concert room. I was given a talk in the criminal court. And it was about a haunting thing. This fella, he was hanged, you know, he was innocent of all his crimes. And Jake Abrams said, I'll come down and listen to that. I said, oh, all right, if you want. So, look, I was chock-a-block. We're all sitting there and I'm talking away. And Jake comes in late as I'm talking. So anyway, they all, you know, they're all looking at me and they all saying, there's a Jake. So he's sitting right at the end on his own. On his own. And the next was, I'm talking, you know what I mean, I'm just talking to the people. And he's like this, Jake, you know, he's looking around. He's looking down, he looks at the back of him. Because there's a bit of a drop at the back of him. Because he's right at the back, in the corner. And he's looking around. So anyway, when that's all over, but he was fidgety right the way through. So after the finishes, disperse and that, I said to Jake, what was you doing there? I said, you nearly put me off. He said, someone was fucking blowing in my ear. And then the other, he said, someone was too. He said, I was frightened. He said, I was frightened. I didn't want to run out. Just mad. And TW said, history repeating itself. Yeah, it does repeat itself. See, and carries on by saying, I've seen, there's that 2 ghosts in my life. I had a few premonitions, seen 5 UFOs. I believe this stuff more than I believe the babies.
Yeah, me too.
Honest to God, honest to God, it's true. It's true.
There's more we don't know about them than we do. That's the beauty of learning.
And as the Emperor says, this story was longer than the show. But anyway, listen, I'll just show you this for the last time. No, I'll show you 2 things for the last time. That is a horrible place to go. Sorry to say that, but that frightened me, that place.
Is it listed, Frank?
Yeah, it's listed. It's why they can't really do anything about it. It is listed.
And I don't think they'd make it as a hotel, would they?
Well, let's say, would they do it a hotel? Would they do a hotel?
There would be people who'd want to stay there. If you tell them this is the most haunted building in the city, don't ever go there. There'll be a queue of 4 miles long of people who want to go there.
Well, that's it. But I wouldn't, would you?
No.
I wouldn't even give the talk. I shout, honestly, I tell them, Frank, are you giving that talk?
Yeah.
Where's your car?
Oh.
We're showing over to you. Where's your fucking car? And you know the way Jared is, he's very,
He gets everywhere, Jared, yeah. He's like, he's not fazed by anything. And that's why we love him. He's no sides to Jared.
He stopped talking to me, deleted me, and then I don't know why. Fucking clown. Must have done something wrong, and I haven't. I'm a nice person. I'm nice. But anyway, just again, thank you so much for keeping Anthony Kalila, myself, company. I'm going to change the format, of history. I don't know whether you know about that, but I'll have a words with you. But, I'm going to bring in more international history because I love talking about different aspects of history, what I lectured on. I lectured about the Romans. I lectured about the English Civil War. I lectured about the French Revolution and about Napoleon. Napoleon, nothing to do with the Revolution. Only Dante and Robespierre and what happened to them. And, the ordinary French. I want to talk about everything, leading up to the First World War. I'm not doing the Second World War because I'm really not a specialist on it. So it's all the things that I'm a specialist in. And the 19th century is pivotal for everything, as you know. And I'm talking about from the likes of the wonderful Dickens and these wonderful people who gave social comments, but it was around the time, what was happening around the time, if you know what I mean. And I'll give a special I think one of the lads will appreciate this. I'll give a special on Jack the Ripper, and I'll come out with these suspects.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's what I'll be doing more of. I'll be doing some local stuff as well, don't get me wrong, you know, because we can't like just ignore the history of Liverpool. And these lads are saying the Anfield Road. Great show tonight, Frank. Great show tonight by two of Liverpool's finest. Thank you, Anfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Anfield are laughing his little head off. And DW. Thanks, Frank and Anthony and chat. That's lovely.
Thank you, DW.
And the Anfield Road is like that too. So, Anthony, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
I'll see you next Monday, because it's not for a couple of weeks, you know. I'm devising the show and that. So, is that okay with you?
We'll talk in the week or the weekend, and I'll tune in on Friday. I'm looking forward to listening.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you.
I'll do that. Yeah, of course.
I hope the DW tunes in, because I know the Anfield Road tunes in, and Redbeard, the lad named Redbeard, you know, a few others, Myra Page, and DW knows Myra.
Yeah.
Well. So, once again, I'll see you all tomorrow on the football show. All you football fans, see you tomorrow. Will I see you? Yeah, tomorrow. On Wednesday, I'll be doing a post-match as well. Thursday, again, the football. That'll be talking about the weekend game. Friday, I've got the wonderful current affairs, what's going on. And we'll be talking a lot about everything. And I mean everything. Not only that, Saturday morning, we have the film and TV review where everything goes. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you, mate. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, people. You're the most important on there.
Definitely.
Because there'd be no show. There wouldn't be a show, Anthony, would there?
It wouldn't without Jason and without our wonderful chat and without, you know, that sponsorship.
Yeah, absolutely. See you all. Bye now.
Good night, all.
Ci vediamo. Ci vediamo.